We will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to our Executive Council meeting of March 28th. We have regrets from Councillor Calvin D'Entremont. So we've called it to order. Invitation to stand and move is on the agenda, as it always is. Number 3, we have the approval of the agenda. Is there anything anybody would like to add to the agenda? Councillor Surratt.
Could we put on the agenda business incentive? I don't know where you'd put that at.
Under, like, are you looking for discussion on
Yeah,
that?
yes.
Okay, let's put it at 7G.
7,
7G, business incentive.
yeah.
Anything else?
In correspondence, I have a letter here.
I told you no.
She told me no, I couldn't have
I
it.
told him the agenda was long enough. No, I'm kidding. Okay, correspondence, 8D. All right.
What is the correspondence?
No, it's from a letter that I got, and I got it late, and it's from the, it went to myself and to John Cunningham, and it's from the Attorney General and the Justice Department.
Awesome.
And it has to do with, they want some
Don't tell us yet. Keep us in suspense.
Priorities.
He's good.
I'm good. I just wanted to hear justice.
Justice Department, that's all we needed.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I think the warden's doing it on purpose just to make the agenda longer. Okay, seeing none, are we okay with the agenda with the additions that we've made? Okay, seeing people shaking their heads, we will accept the agenda with the 2 amendments, 2 additions. Any conflict of interest to declare? Anybody have a conflict on any of the items? Okay, I don't see any. Again, we can declare it at any time. If an item comes up and you feel like you have a conflict, you can declare it then. Next, we have the adoption of the minutes. 4A, we have March 14th, 2024, our regular council meeting minutes. Were there any errors or omissions? Any issues with those minutes? Okay, seeing none, they will be approved as presented. March 20th, 2024, special council meeting minutes. Any issues with those? Okay, seeing none, they will be approved as presented. Next, we have number 5, staff reports. 5A, we have the department head report. There were 2 attachments. We had Renee speak to us prior to the meeting. Are there any other questions or comments for Renee on those? Okay, seeing none, we will move on and we will let you go home. You do have for the development agreement. Okay. 5B, clerk's report. So there's a clerk's report. This is the one that is in salmon color. Every time we look at this, though, like most of it is completed, right? It's good. Any questions or comments on this for the clerk? Okay, seeing none. We don't have to, we discussed them. 5C, the building permit report as well is on the agenda. I suspect you've all taken a look. Any questions or comments on that one? Okay, seeing none, we will continue to move on. 6, we are at number 6 on the agenda, our 7-day notice. So 7-day notice, we have 6A, Article C21, reimbursement of claims amendments. So this is again for our 7-day notice. You'll notice there are some changes. Some of it is language related. There are just some changes in there that are noted in red. Some of the amounts, for example, for meals, for breakfast, things have changed. I think there was one that I noted. What else did I note? Air travel for FCMs, some of that has changed, but the language is more I feel like the language is a little bit more inclusive now. Questions or comments? I see Councillor Surratt, go ahead.
Yes, 8.4. I don't feel good about it. And I'll tell you why. The warden and CAO shall be authorized to be reimbursed for reasonable meal expenses, makes sense, but incurred for hospitality purposes. I'm a little uneasy about that, and the reason is, are we opening up ourselves to You know, and I'm not saying that you're gonna do anything wrong, but are we opening us up down the road for somebody coming in and saying, so who did you bring out? Who did you bring with you? You know, should there be something else that's there that added on that may say, for business purposes? It says hospitality purposes. I don't feel good about that because I feel it's opening this up, that something can go, something can, how will I say that? It doesn't look good. I guess that's the way I feel about it.
Okay,
I don't know if anybody else.
I can just say how many times I've done that. I think once. And we do that with the mayor, the warden, both wardens and the mayor. And we have a meeting we just discuss kind of what's going on in each municipality, and we take turns. The mayor will pay for our meal one time, John pays for another time, I pay for another time.
How much would that be?
How much?
Yeah, how much money you release it?
Whatever lunch, I mean, a lunch can cost you $20, it might be, yeah, times 3, whatever.
Or it could be 300.
300.
Well, it could be, and this is what probably 8.4 could, you know, if there's no limit there, maybe? Yeah, and I'm not saying it is 300, I'm just saying it could be with 8.4. You know, so in other words, if you want to take somebody to the Westin instead of McDonald's, it leaves it open for that. That's what I'm finding anyhow.
Otherwise reimbursed for reasonable meal expenses. I would say that wouldn't be reasonable. I think reasonable shows that you have to be reasonable. I mean, I don't know who you would bring that you would spend that much.
would you be more comfortable around language with a limit? Because I think what I
Thank
hear.
you.
I think what I hear you saying is that
Marche.
we know that our warden is reasonable.
And I'll add to, yeah, no
And our
question.
CAO
I'm not worried
is
about that.
reasonable, but we
Yeah.
don't know who the warden
Yeah,
and the CAO may be
Yeah.
5-10 years
This
from
is
now.
what I'm, thank you.
And we don't necessarily know if that person would be reasonable. And what I'm hearing you say is you're concerned that maybe because it's taxpayers'
Yeah.
funds, what if it ends up being $300?
Thank you.
Is that,
You've certainly read it well.
okay,
Thank you.
so how does everybody feel about that? Do you feel like there should be some language around a limit on that one?
I do, but I don't know.
Just too many lights on.
Go ahead, Councilor Deacon, go ahead.
I don't, oh,
Put that on where he has, yeah, they come on now.
I don't know whose light come on first.
You were
I have
first.
no idea.
You were first.
Go ahead.
I agree with wording, but I think there should be a place where you've got hospitality purposes. There might be a very sound reason for this, for you hosting someone. And I think there should be wording placed in that. I guess what I'm saying, if you're going to be hosting something or a person of value, maybe you should look at that in that particular way, not just an amount. And I think to set an amount might be crippling in some sense.
That is a good point, because I'm thinking, and there was a time too, I'm just thinking when from France, who was it that had come from France? L'Ambassadeur from, I don't think we had a meal with them, we didn't, but had we done that, it would have been more than $60 likely, right? So, yeah, that's a very good point.
I think you got to be careful on that one. Yeah.
Ward Muse?
Yeah, it would be, let's say we put in a pound for $60, okay? Let's say we do that. And then we take someone out and we have to tell them that we can't eat more than $20. I mean, it doesn't, I would be a little concerned with that, right? Yeah, I'm going to bring you out, but stay on this side of the menu.
No tip.
But, and you're right, I mean, it can be, okay, for instance, we're meeting with Mani? She's on, you're on, we have to find out where we're going, by the way. So we might pay for hers, right? I mean, we're going for lunch. And we'll probably pay for all three if we're there for lunch, for a meeting, right? So I have a problem with, depending on what the amount is, if it was 300, maybe I'll be all right.
Counselor Bork.
So I agree with your comment, Counselor Saulnier. So is there a part where you could put like business, like you're having a business lunch? So maybe that kind of a language, you could put business lunch. Usually a business lunch is not $300. It could be, but I mean, a reasonable business lunch. Because usually you have a budget for, say we're having a meeting at supper time or dinner time. We have an amount that we're allowed to spend for our lunch or our supper, light supper or something like that. It's the same thing with the recreation, we have a supper, so it would be about the same thing. I would include that in there, something like that.
Thank you. CEO Muse?
We can certainly change the wording. I think the wording is very general, and that's the concern that's being raised, is that it's, what does hospitality mean? And it means different things to different people. We do have a hospitality policy as well as this, and that was because the government, the province of Nova Scotia, did not want us to buy certain things, especially things around alcohol. There were some things that were banned, so there's only in very specific ways that we can do that. So the point I'm making is there are additional controls around this, and it has to do with the province forcing us to not spend in certain areas. That's number one. Number two is all of our hospitality, meals, travel, et cetera, are disclosed on our website. And we're required to do that. It's one of the, with all the changes of the MGA, they insisted that this stuff be disclosed. So what I'm hearing is, we probably can't get the wording right today. We can go back and give you certain wording to not limit the CEO or warden, but give them better guidance, because we don't really have a lot of guidance here. Those are my words, and I read them now and go, gee, look at that. That doesn't mean much. So we certainly can expand on that and come back with it. If that's the only issue, then we can certainly do that and come back and make an approval at the next meeting if you wish.
Okay. Counselor Sonia, did you have another comment?
Please.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to clarify or add to what I said. I think this is one of the most trustworthy circle of people I've sat with, and we do trust our warden and our CAO. And just that alone, to me, is good enough. However, to clarify the wording to Guy's point, I think we should know exactly what's going on. But if it's warranted to pay $500 for a meal, in the end, if it pays us, go with it. That's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Were there any other items that anybody had a question about? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Next, we have for decision and discussion. So 7A, second reading of the development agreement for Highway 4134, Highway 308, PID 900-87388. There's an attachment of the draft development agreement. So this is the one that was for the drive-through. So it has, we've had meetings with PAC, we had a public hearing on this. There really weren't a whole lot. There were a few concerns that had come in via email, and the development agreement seemed to address those concerns. So some of them were, let me see, I wrote them down. It had to do with litter. They felt like there was going to be more litter. The development agreement addressed how many garbage receptacles there would be, and it was, more than adequate for the traffic going through there. There was a concern around traffic flow, and again, they have to get permits from the Department of Public Works, from Department of Transportation. You can't just put a drive-through anywhere. You have to make sure you have the right, all of the right permits, and that went through. So there was traffic flow. There was a concern around whether or not our community needed a drive-through. That, to me, is, who decides that? That's really difficult to decide. But I felt like, at least for me, when I was at that meeting, I felt like the development agreement did address the concerns that had come through that email. Other than that, nobody had come to the public hearing. So that was really all that there was. Is there anybody else that was at PAC that has anything else to add? That's good. Questions or comments? Counselor Surratt?
I'd like to move the acceptance of the second reading for the development agreement on 4134 Highway 308.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
I had another point,
Yes, go ahead.
if you don't mind.
No.
Probably to Renee, and it's just for anybody, doesn't only mean that place. Handicap parking, is that included somewhere in that development agreement? Or is that in our general bylaws and that?
That's included in the Nova Scotia building codes and the regs, so it depends on the occupation, what the occupancy is. It'll determine how many parking stalls, and there are dedicated parking stalls on the site plan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have 7B, the second reading on land use bylaw and municipal planning strategy housekeeping amendment. So you have an attachment. There was a variety of amendments, all kinds of different amendments. They didn't really have any rhyme or reason. It was just some cleanup that they had to do. We went through them at PAC. Are there any questions, comments? Go ahead. Yep.
I just want to make a comment because last at the public hearing, there was questions or concerns on the definition of the evening restaurant
Yes.
patio. Discussion was, it says 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and that ties into our land use, our bylaw, our noise bylaw, 9/8, so that's why it's 9 p.m.'s there, and, I mean, if somebody wants to have extended hours, we can always it can be brought to council and be granted an exception, so there's nothing really, in my opinion, to be concerned on.
Okay.
And it was there in the previous
Yes.
definition.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Okay, it's moved by Warden Muse. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Donaldson. Any other questions or comments on that one? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have 7C, election 2024. Hard to believe, we're already talking about this. We were just at home in my house, we were talking about this. Is it this year or next year? It's this year already. So we have e-voting as an option, as we've had for the last couple of elections. And it's time to kind of look at the companies who are offering e-voting. We have 3 options in front of us. We've used IntelliVote in the past. And Scott Surratt has offered the rationale for all 3, how they feel about all 3, and there is a suggested motion. So there are dollar values associated with each of them as well. And the suggested motion that they have provided is that we enter into an agreement with IntelliVote for the use of their software for the 2024 municipal election. Councillor Digdon, do
I'd be willing to make that motion.
we have a seconder?
That we go with IntelliVote.
Seconded by Councillor Saunier. Any questions on that? Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
Is there additional cost to the election beyond these people here? What's the total cost of, do you have those numbers?
They asked the older guy, they asked these questions too. I've seen as low as 28 and as high as 35. I think we budgeted 40, which is way too much at this point based on certain criteria. IntelliVote represents approximately 50% of the cost. The other 50% will include things like returning officers. There's usually a stipend paid for a returning officer. Assistant returning officers that take paper ballots on the day or train people and do during the elections are paid a daily stipend. Also, depending on how many elections we have, we could have additional costs and we could have additional rebates. So we could have rebates from CSAP if we do a CSAP election. So there could be additional revenues coming in that we didn't expect. We'd never budget for that. Lastly, I would say things like paper ballots and transportation and IT and all those other costs would add into the total budget that I explained earlier. There's one bit of good news this year, is for the first year ever, we will be receiving a significant amount of money from Acadian Affairs to offset the cost of the electronic software because it's bilingual. We never had the opportunity to apply, or we didn't have the imagination to apply, either one of them, for this funding before. So I don't recall how much it was. Was it 10? Yeah, that's a significant amount of money. So if we're going to pay 17, which if this motion goes through, it would be about that, some of it will be offset. A good section of that will be offset. So it's possible that this election would be the cheapest one since we started doing e-voting.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have 7D, Article P32, Employment Recognition. The next three are different policies that you guys had discussed at the last meeting. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did watch it, which is one of the benefits of having it. I didn't watch it while I was on vacation. I watched it afterwards. The Wi-Fi wouldn't have let me watch it. No, but I did watch it afterwards. But that is one of the benefits, I guess, of us recording it and having it housed on our website. So I did go through and kind of listen to all the comments on this one. So this one, employee recognition, and some of the comments I remember hearing, people seem to be happy with the changes because of the cost of living and the way everything is more expensive. So the language, you see the changes in red and et cetera. So are there any questions or comments on this one? Councillor Bork,
I'll make the motion that we accept this.
do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Boudreau. Do we have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have 7E, public presentation. So this one, I remember from the meeting, I believe it was Councillor Surratt who felt like, not interrupting somebody if the presentation goes over 10 minutes, and Chantal said that the language said they must interrupt, but it's changed to may interrupt. So there are a few changes in here. How does council feel about this one? Councillor Surratt?
I so move that we accept this public presentation policy.
Any seconders? Seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Then we have 7F. It is Article C53, Municipal Grants and Sponsorships. So again, there were some changes that were made after comments from the last meeting. If you notice, there are, I think it was 3.25, let me see, there was a few that I had noticed that that there were questions about, but anyway, the language reflects the questions that you had. How does council feel about this one?
So moved.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Councillor Surratt, did you have a comment?
Yes, I may be shooting myself in the foot by asking this question, but this has happened before, of course.
No.
So let's just say that instead of six grants, six district community grant, let's just say I want to stretch it a bit here and say I'll do 8 at 500 and some odd. I read through this and I didn't see that there was a problem with that. Now, maybe the CAO or the deputy CAO might have an answer to that, and if...
Because at the last meeting, one of the comments was because some councillors sometimes struggle to give away their 6.
Yeah.
So a councillor had said, what if I don't have 6?
Yeah.
What if I want to give out 4, but give out more? And I remember the conversation kind of went around the table.
Yeah.
it was like, that's kind of tricky.
Yeah. Now, I didn't see this in
That
the...
added in.
Added in, or if it's in, I should have shut up. So what would the CAO?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, thank you for identifying the loophole that you were going to take advantage of later. 10.3 says each request is capped at 700 per organization per year. So that's capped. That means you can pay them less than 700. And 10.4 says each counselor is allotted 4,200 per year in support of their community needs. There is nothing here that says that every contribution has to be 700. Nothing. So you could give out more than your allotted 6 or whatever it is, the number, at lesser amounts if that is the will of your community. So it does, your question is a great question, and I would not recommend we change it because, first of all, the initial number was me doing a calculation error and not being at the meeting to take responsibility. So you guys were like, dude, where did the money go? Like, what's going on? And here I am, the accountant, doing the math wrong. So so we did fix that, but you're quite right. There is nothing saying that you couldn't give 8 out at a lower amount. And I don't have any recommendation to change it at this time. If you insist on it as a council, we certainly can, but it gives you the flexibility, because some of you have way too many organizations you don't know what to do with, and some of you don't have enough, and you struggle each year. And this will give you at least some flexibility. That's all I'll say about that. So I'd also say, Councillor Surratt, good pickup. Glad you read it as deeply as you did. But that's it. There's nothing stopping.
So what is the wish of council? Do we want to leave it as it is? Yes? Second. Any more questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Next, we have, what was it? 7G. Business incentive. That is Councillor Surratt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was speaking to a few people over the last month, and they were looking maybe to set up or thinking about business, and they were asking me if there was any incentive that the municipality could give. So I didn't think, I had brought this up way years and years ago, and I don't think it was allowed, or my understanding was there's nothing much the municipality could do. So just about a week ago, I was talking to a councillor from the municipality of Yarmouth, and they have some kind, I've understood that it was some kind of a tax incentive, and sometimes they'll give somebody a break for 5 years, so a new business could go in and maybe pay a little bit less taxes to ease their burden, to get set up, and then give them an incentive to, to set up in Argyle, number one. And number two, to ease their burden and to get on their feet. So I guess I'd be asking if our CEO would know if he knows anything about what the setup is in Yarmouth, because the councillor couldn't really explain to me properly. But if there was such a thing, and if it was council's wish that staff come up in the next 3 or 4 months. I know you've got plenty on your plate, maybe an idea of what could happen or if it was possible. So I'd like the CEO maybe to explain what he knows on that, and it would be good to help businesses.
Thank you. CEO Muse?
Thank you very much. So the answer to the question is there are business incentives in certain areas for certain purposes. The example that you set, I'm not sure how it would apply in the municipality, but I do know that the town has it in place. And what it is it's a deferred or reduced tax rate in the first 5 years of their existence. Now, there are rules around that, and the rule is that those businesses that have that rebate must have access to both wastewater and water services. And none of our communities actually have both. We have one and not the other. So, and certain communities, none at all. And I think it really was designed, this was a CBRM-led change. And it's recent, it has been maybe 3 or 4 years. And it's very small town centric, because there would be the ones that would have those types of services. Certainly, I can send you exactly what the MGA says around these incentives so that you can see for yourself, oh crap, that's not something that we can provide. We do, however, have other ways that we incentivize business, and a lot of which is to set the stage for business to develop. Business parks, whether they're on the sea or on land, we have invested in those things in the past. Certainly, sewer extensions to support businesses. There are ways that every municipality can provide services like that at a lower, perhaps at a lower rate for business or whatever the case may be. There are limitations as to what we can do, again, with taxes. We can't give rebates in most cases, if not all cases, because they just don't give us the power to do so. So I hope that kind of clarifies things. I know that rule exists, and it's not the problem. The challenge I have with it when it came out is like, well, geez, like, that'd be nice if we could get a hold of that, but we couldn't, because we just couldn't qualify. I will send you all of the, what I'll do is by the next meeting, probably off the record, off the record of the meeting, I don't mean private, I mean in an email, I will send you the potential incentives that the MGA allows us to do, and you can come back with questions on that at that time.
There's no hurry on that, just whenever you have time.
It's an excellent, listen, if I, as business owners are always looking for a way to get a leg up on, especially early in the game, right? So this is why we did our ADA, right? Is to give people a leg up. So I totally understand the question. It's an excellent question. Let me get you the proper answer through email.
Thank you.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. Number 8, correspondence and for information. So we had 3 pieces on the agenda, and the warden has another piece. So the first one is West Pubnico School correspondence from the Department of Education. So basically, they said, thanks for letting us know, but here's our plan. So the capital plan, the 5-year plan is listed there, and we see that the school is quite far down. They do also list some of the renovations they made years ago. The other one is WSP invoice. This was, I believe, at the last meeting as well. Did anybody want to speak to that? Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did discuss this at the last meeting. I just wanted to bring it up again that we received another bill. This one's a little more on the regular. The amount is basically the regular amount that we would receive from WSP. But I just wanted to bring it up again that we did receive another one this month that's over budget, and I just wanted to make you guys aware, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments on that? Okay. Next, we have a letter from the Department of Public Works regarding the intersection that Councillor Bork had brought forward. They do not feel that it requires or meets the criteria for a multi-way stop.
Cheap answer.
I don't think anybody's happy about that one. D, Warden Muse. Oh, sorry, Councillor Digdon?
Well, I tell you what, if we're not happy, I guess we're the people to look into it further, or should look into it further. We've got a very busy time coming on around that intersection, and maybe we could ask them if they could review it, and review that answer that they've given us.
So what would be your recommendation to send another letter?
Exactly.
Getting them to, kind of like an appeal almost, like we don't accept this, do it,
Well,
kind of,
you know, just feel as though that, you know, and like I said before, maybe we should look into it further, maybe as far as sending and watch, God forbid, I'm gonna get the first one stopped going down there. Maybe having more enforcement around that intersection from the RCMP. You know, because the only thing I look at, we're all the councillors here, and 3 of us have thought, well, maybe there should be more done, but if we just let it go, then I guess, you know, so we're gonna have to bear some of the brunt if something does happen. So I definitely, and I don't know if what Councillor Bork thinks on that, I don't wanna, she brought it forward, so I don't wanna overstep my boundaries on that, but I don't know what her thoughts are on that, I guess is what I'd like to hear before I say too much. Thank
Counselor
you.
Work?
No, you're not overstepping. It's part of where you go by every day. Pretty well 3 or 4 of us that go by there every day. I'm not happy with the response that we got, and I think it was just a way to get push on and put it away and not deal with it. So I still think that they probably have to review it more, maybe when it's busy, to see what's going on there, and probably more reinforcements. So maybe when we have our joint
Police advisory.
police, I will bring that up with then.
This is what this is about.
Okay.
Not about the.
Yeah, so I still think we should, like Glenn says, Counselor Digdon, send another letter saying that we're not happy with this response and that they should go further in with their review.
Okay.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay, questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. Go ahead, Warden Muse, sorry.
Didn't want anybody to hear me.
Well, I was trying to make it shorter.
I was gonna spend more time.
You were going to read the whole letter, weren't you?
I was going to read everything. It's from Department of Justice, and it has to do with exactly what you were talking about at the, what is it, that you're, the police?
Police advisory.
Advisory. And what they're looking for is they set priorities, right? The safety section up there, they set priorities. They're going to work with the advisory, police advisory, but they want to know if anybody has anything that they think they would, just, if you think there's something out there that they're not doing that they should be doing, and you felt it's a priority, that you have an opportunity to respond to this, either through the police advisory, right? But it's just that if you have anything that you feel is a priority that they're not doing. So,
Is there a deadline or anything? Does it
the
say?
deadline, well, I don't see a deadline, but.
When's your
received by
next meeting?
office.
Counselor Bork, hold on, pause.
Can,
Go ahead. We'll unpause you in a second.
can you forward us that
can forward.
correspondence? And then maybe we
Yeah,
can send that to the chair of
I'm going
the
to-
You're
Police
not
Advisory
unpaused
Committee.
yet. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to
Okay.
give you that, and you can make sure they get it, because I have to copy it.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
But that just went to the two wardens, so, and I didn't get a chance to copy it and send it. So anyway, that's what they're looking for sure.
Do you know when your next meeting is?
I thought it was in April, May, I don't know, they keep changing it.
So there is, like, within the next month or so, there
It
is.
should be.
So once we get that letter and kind of take a look through it, we can, if we have priorities, we can either forward them to you or to Counselor Boudreau. And then when you guys have your meeting, you guys can bring them forward? Okay. Thank you for that.
Just-
Police advisory, May 16th,
May 16th.
so
Okay.
that changes all the
Right.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go
It's ju-
ahead. You're on
Yeah,
pause.
it's just that I attended an EAP webinar yesterday, and it's something new for us, as far as I know. I don't believe we had this. We're part of the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. I asked the question, yeah,
Go ahead.
We do have an EAP program, but it's not with the province no longer. We've switched that with another,
to this, tell us.
yes.
Okay, tell us. It was a great presentation. I mean, there's so many things that anybody can call and solve, very confidential. They have a website. I don't know if anybody wants to go to the website. There's another session in April that if anybody wanted to, I don't have the date right here. You all should have received that email. This was a while back. There was 2 sessions, one yesterday and one in April. And I attended. The only difference with the April one it's not geared just to elected officials. It's going to be more of a broader presentation. But they have a website, and you can go through that. And another thing they're going to do, they recorded the session. I didn't quite understand, but I think all councillors will be receiving an email with that session, so that if you want to listen to it, it'll be there. I was really impressed with the session. Never fell asleep once.
That's good. That's important.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring, I just want to bring that up anyway, that, you know, it's there, and with the other session, if you can attend it, it's, like I said, it might be a little different than what we had, because it was just geared to elected officials yesterday. But it covers many things. It's good.
Okay, thank you. And next, we have number 9, financial requests. So Chantal said that we can approve these all together. We have 4 of them. District Community Grant requests for the Hubbards Point Community Center, District 1 for $500. We have a District Community Grant request, Twin Village Social Club, District 4, $500. District Community Grant, request, St. Joseph Cemetery, District 4, $500. And District Community Grant request, Pubnico Point Trail Association, District 9 for $500. Somebody willing to make a motion to move all 4 of those district community grants? Moved by Councillor Digdon, seconded by Councillor Bourque. Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Number 10, agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion by councillors. I don't see anything. 11, question period. Anything, questions? Nope, okay. Nothing in camera, so we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.